Hello, kids. I'm going to read a story for you guys. A little short story. It is called The Boy and the Sorcerer. I found this online. I figured I'd read you guys a story just if you ever want to hear me read a story and I'm not able to. So, The Boy and the Sorcerer. The Boy and the Sorcerer. These are interesting photos. A poor peasant, a poor peasant longed for a boy. The winds brought him a wisp, a stick, all legs and a fair pelt, elbows and knees. The trees roughed his soft hair, the sun kissed the freckles on the lean span of his cheeks. This boy was a godsend. He laughed and barreled down hills, arms windmilled against the soft smelling summer skies. The peasant watched him through half-daring eyes as people watched the son, his son. So clever, he could count before he could even talk. He knew how to find his way home from anywhere. He could walk the stretches of hard earth, and he could till it with his strong arms and back till the vegetables turned themselves over in the soil. With all that rude health and watering, growing and feeding, the crops would spill into their pots and plates. They'd eat like in Eden. There's the boy, the strong boy. That is, if the boy had wanted to. But the boy didn't want to. The boy would not do his chores, tend animals, not tear up good earth. I am not born to work on a farm, he said. I am who I am, and I'm not that. Look at those animals. These are good pictures. No sum of begging, enticing, or play would have the son change his mind on this. He wanted better things than working the land as his father did. No, he wanted city noises and lamp lights, sharp hemmed clothes and tailoring, music and books of an evening, men who tipped their hats when you walked in the front door of an establishment. The peasant loved his son and saw his boy's heart and mind in the same generous way that the boy did of himself. So the old man took his boy to blacksmith, cobblers, and butchers. They spied on astronomers and drifted by doctors, listened in cafes, and ranged through department stores. Yet the boy looked at them all with drooping eyes. Nothing was good enough for this child. With a bright future waving like a casual friend, assumed bright as sunlight of what he was and was not. There's a interesting photo. I don't know which one's the sun. Maybe the one on the right. From shadows where magic always lies, a cloaked stranger had watched the man and son walk the length and breadth of town and had seen the peasants' eager ministrations and the boy's bored impatience. This stranger burned his coal eyes on them, and when they turned a brick corner by the end, he drew them in as a spider does, stealthily, invitingly, with a voice like a whisper of unfurled silk shaken by moonlight. You are spectacular, he said to the boy, just that. And because both peasant and son agreed, they listened more intently, looked harder than they had at the accountants and tradesmen, the flamboyant lawyers. I can teach him everything I know, said the stranger, and to prove some of what he knew, he quivered, burst into a long, stealthy flame, then a moment longer stood before them, a man once more, a sorcerer. So that's who is up here. That's the sorcerer and the father. There's the sorcerer. The boy's sweet face brightened. He liked the idea of controlling nature and other men with secrets. What's more, the sorcerer wanted no payment. No payment, said he, his voice smooth as dunes blanched by dusk breezes, but a bargain. In 1 year and 1 day come and find him, old man. If you can recognize him, he is yours again and free to walk the world at leisure, possessed of incredible power. But yet, if you do not know him, your own bright son, he will stay my apprentice farthermore. How could the peasant do? What could the peasant do? Excuse me. His son had flames in his eyes. He could hardly have prevented him. The peasant let his son go, thrilled and quivering, and he hoped he would always know his own son, as well as his son seemed to know his own self. There's the son going with the sorcerers. Under the sorcerer's apprenticeship, the boy spent the first week sweeping, the next week collecting herbs and scouring cauldrons until the bronze was rusted and glowed. A month later, however, the sorcerer showed him how to turn water to ice, stones to bread, clever words into songs, and dusk into dawn. One day after, the sorcerer showed him how to become an animal, and the delight was so sharp that the boy knew he could no longer bear to be a human. This is the sorcerer as a bird. Now he was the lust of a bear tasting honey, the whip flash buzz of dragonfly cushioned by air currents, the snug sleepiness of a cat in the slant of morning rays. This is what the boy turned into, all these animals. All that catnapping led him to dreams where the boy roamed as though he had written the map. One night he followed the pressed parchment of whimsies to his father's mind, where he told him how he must know him when he came. I will be a green rooster, said the boy to his father. I will stumble against your ankle. That is how you will know me. There is the boy. A year and a day later had flown as fast as wind whipped clouds hurtling by mountains. The peasant came to the sorcerer's house, where he pressed on the gate, and 100 roosters scattered from the old white rotten wood and spilled around his feet. The sorcerer emerged, smiling and charming. But which one is your son? There's the sorcerer. One fowl seemed to be knocked by the others. It sprawled in a fan of green and red feathers by the peasant's boot. This one, he said, and from the sorcerer's scowl, the old man knew he had chosen true. Do you see which one is the son? He's this green one right here, I bet. That evening, he and his son embraced and talked so long that the moon had cracked out from behind the spectral cumulus like a blood-red egg, and they thought it was already dawn. The sun seemed like himself, but better, for he contained the plethora of newness, new scales and feathers, new funk and fur, that told the old man his son was everything he had ever dreamed of, ever wanted, or anyone could be. There's his son back from the sorcerer. And now life began again, and the boy needed not to work the land. He had only to turn himself into a tall, muscled horse, a heaving pig, a plush, meaty goose, and his father would take him to a morning market and sell him. Then in the evening, his son would transform back into a boy and simply walk home again. There he is, leading his son. But the sorcerer was mighty, not just because of physical skills like conjuring, but also due to clever skills like future-looking, which he had not yet taught the apprentice, believing he had time. He therefore saw the caper of the peasant and his son, bought the boy as a gleaming stallion, and easily owned him once more. There's a sorcerer. It was not until the boy felt the fingers of the sorcerer pulling the reins decisively taut that he smelled his old tutor, and too late reared, but in vain. His father had gone, and here was the peasant's son, once more restrained by the potent ties of the sorcerer. There's the boy and the sorcerer. In a sudden gust of inspiration, the boy melded himself against the iron of the bit and became a golden ring, which slipped from the ropes and rolled swiftly down the hill away from the sorcerer's grip. A passing milkmaid spotted and knelt, her warm cheeks glowing in the thrill of the discovered treasure. She reached out and slid the band of gold on her ring finger. There's the boy on the finger of the milkmaid. And the sorcerer saw her and charged towards her, cloaks billowing. Give me the ring, it belongs to me, he cried. The girl stood in fright and startled. The ring clattered from her hands onto the stone, spinning as it did. There she is with the ring. All that energy spun the ring into the stuff of furs and plant matter, and the ring transformed into a glowing seed. There he is, transforming from the ring, from the horse into the ring, and then the ring into the seed. Quick thinking as befit his reputation, the sorcerer swiftly sprouted feathers and became a tall, strong rooster. He craned his eager beak to strike the seed, to swallow it as primordial glow, as dawn on a horizon. But before he could swallow it, the air compressed just enough to drive the peasant's sun to shimmer. In a flip glint, he turned foxish. There's the rooster trying to eat the seed, or the sorcerer trying to eat the sun. Now a russet fox, the beast pounced on the rooster's neck and sank his canines deep into the feathery column that separated sorcerer from eternity. So divided, the sorcerer joined it. There's the boy fighting the rooster and the sorcerer. The peasant's son was now free in a freer way than he had ever thought before. Once a boy who said he was not born to till farms, he now found he was born to everything. He only needed to choose which version of himself suited the moment best. There's the boy and the sun. The end. That was a very good book. I hope you guys enjoyed it. All right. Well, everyone, have a good rest of your day. I'll see you kids. Bye bye.